Dum, 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 dum. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, my wonderful, beautiful family. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the Mental House with me, your host, Khadija. All right, y'all know these high conflict and personality disordered individuals are everywhere. They're all in your family. You encounter them probably as neighbors at your place of work if you have a job, in your schools. It's amazing how we have become such a nation of addicts, ex-addicts, um, and I'm going to put the cutoff at 20, 25 years, because usually when people have been clean that long, there's probably no reasonable. It's pretty safe to say, have an assumption that they won't go back. Now, there's an exception to every rule, but if you don't have that many years under your belt being clean, I don't trust you, because you still have drug behavior that you have to work out. In fact, I'm dealing with that right now with uh, uh, a distant cousin of mine who's exemplifying to me nothing but drug behavior, um, serious drug behavior. And so, without getting into too many details, it might be a situation that I have to let the police handle, simply because I will not be intimidated. I will not be pushed to any levels where I feel like doing something harmful to someone. Before I do that, I pay too many taxes, and unfortunately, it happens to be a family member. But I have to let my gang handle some business for me, because sometimes when you're dealing with people like this, that's the only way you deal with it. You just deal with it, and so let the chips fall where they may. But that was really the catalyst to what I wanted to start talking about, which is 7 behaviors of people who were unloved as children, and you can see these behaviors displayed in their lives as an adult. Okay, sometimes a child can be smothered. Sometimes, when people like to say spoiled, another way of saying that is smothered to the point where um, the decisions that they make are always questioned. They don't have the ability to say anything back, because basically it's a hostage situation. Okay, children are to be seen and not heard. But you know, I just want to share this article with you guys, and it came from a Wake Up, and it says early childhood is a period of rapid change in the human brain. The brain builds complex network connections at a very fast rate during early or middle childhood. A process called myelination, which the brain neuron formation is 80% complete by the age of 4. The brain plays a role in literally everything we do, think, or say. In case a kid is not properly nurtured, it affects their brain development, preventing their emotional network from being developed. Okay, so this is why I want y'all to know how important it is. A lot of y'all out there just having babies, and you don't really understand the personal responsibility that you have to treat all of these children as individuals, to spread yourself as thin as possible. And sometimes you don't want to do that, so you don't need to put yourself in a position of doing that until you're completely selfless. Completely. And that's a hard thing and place to be in. The connection, again, between the childhood's brain personality characteristics and development traits is both universal and indisputable. A psychologist, Peg Street, discusses the link between adult and early childhood life. Namely, Streep notes that although everybody's childhood experience is different, there are reliable and broad statements that may be made about the impact of these experiences. Okay? Childhood experiences can shape a person's behavior and their personality. Okay, so the personality you have that you own is very well shaped by the experiences that you've had as a child. I'm sure a lot of y'all know that. For those of y'all who don't, it's for you. Here are some of the signs and behaviors of someone that was neglected and unloved during childhood. Oversensitivity. Everyone has probably heard the phrase, don't take this personally. In fact, it's solid advice. Those who deal with their own problems usually project them onto other people. But for somebody who has had the misfortune of growing up in an unloving environment, to not take things personally does go against the grain of their psyche. So they can't help but take it personally, because that's the way they wired. Insecurities. If the child is misfortunate enough to grow up in a loving home, it's pretty natural to take things personally later in life. People who deal with problems and issues with themselves often project their issues onto others and can't understand that people are sharing their opinions and thoughts about certain things, and that it doesn't mean that they want to hurt them. The person also fears of rejection because as a child, the child felt unloved and insignificant in their parents' lives and in the family. Okay? Hope that makes sense to you. Fear of failure. Unfortunately, kids that grow up in a neglectful environment may not develop a sense of self-worth. However, a loving and stimulating environment can instill fortitude and confidence. A kid that's unloved may feel an absence of self-esteem that usually manifests as an unjustifiable sense of failure. Poor emotional intelligence. Can't reason. A child learns what she's or he's feeling through dyadic interaction. A mother's gestures and words. They teach the baby to self-soothe when the baby is stressed or uncontrollable. When the baby is crying, sometimes you can just take it and, the gestures, oh, it's okay, honey. Later, the mother will play a key role in helping her daughter articulate her feelings, name them, and learn to manage her fears and negative emotions. Okay. Now, in the hood, the mother is not doing that. It's very rare would you find a mother that's playing a key role in helping her daughter articulate her emotional feelings. I'm not concerned about the larger community right now, and I'm not talking about them because they got all sorts of resources to help them deal with that, and they take advantage of it. Black people in the hood don't. That's why we got so many nuts running around in this hood that is emotionally retarded people that need help. And we're not going to just push this off on, they just tripping. Something has to be done about these trips. The insecurity attached to a daughter doesn't learn to regulate her emotion. She's either engulfed by them or walled off from them. Now, that's what I've had to learn, the category I fitted in. I was totally walled off from them. Both insecure styles of attachment get in the way of naming emotions, using them to inform thought, key aspects of emotional intelligence. I'm going to read that again. A child learns what she's feeling through dyadic interaction. A mother's gestures and words teach the baby to self-soothe when the baby is stressed or uncomfortable. Later, the mother will play a key role in helping her daughter articulate her feelings, name them, and learn to manage her fears and negative emotions. The insecurity attached daughter doesn't learn how to regulate her emotions. She's either engulfed by them or walled off by them. Both insecure styles of attachment get in the way of naming emotions and using them to inform the thought. Key aspects of emotional intelligence. So that's why I said there's just a lack of emotional intelligence. Trust issues. It's essential that people that are surrounding the child are stable and show and live loyalty and trust. Live by that creed. In the mind of the baby, everything programs itself what it sees and feels. The mind remembers through pictures and symbols. Without a stabilized surrounding, the child will have difficulties in trusting other, and more importantly, trusting itself. Let's say that again. Without a stabilized surrounding, crazy without a stabilized surrounding, the child will have difficulties trusting other, and more importantly, trusting itself. Most of the homes that I see the kids are being raised in, the parents are screaming and yelling all around them and arguing and fighting and punching and drinking and all this shit around these kids, which is another reason to create anxiety and depression. So you have these children that are growing up like this, and so this is the behavior that it manifests itself in when they become adults. The anxiety and depression, unloved kids usually develop mental health problems. Anxiety and depression that stem from having experienced neglect or the inevitable complications that surface when the kid ages are common mental health problems. Anxiety and depression that stem from having experienced neglect or the inevitable complications that surface when the kid ages are common mental health problems. You get that? Lastly, you guys, it's a really good identifying factor here, is the toxic relationships. We all seek out the familiar. See the shared root with the word family. So we all seek out the familiar, and so that's just dandy if you have a secure base, and definitely less than optional if you are unloved and are an unloved daughter. The chances are that good initially, at least you'll be attracted to those who treat you as your mother did. A familiar comfort zone that offers no comfort. Until you begin to recognize the ways in which you were wounded in childhood, the chances are good that you'll continue to create the emotional atmosphere you grew up in with the adults in your life. I'm going to read that one more time, you guys, because this is so important, and this is the last one. Seek out all the familiar. I'm sorry. We all seek out the familiar, which is just dandy if you have had a secure family base, okay? And definitely a less than optimal if you are an unloved daughter. The chances are good that initially, at least, you'll be attracted to those who treat you as your mother did. A familiar comfort zone that offers really no comfort. Until you begin to recognize the ways in which you were wounded in childhood, the chances are good that you'll continue to recreate the emotional atmosphere that you grew up in with your adult partner. In this relationship, in your adult relationships. Food for thought, people. Food for thought. I'll be back a little later, and if you like what you hear, please like, subscribe, and share. And we'll see you right back here in the next video. Bye-bye.